And the kid heard my voice and started looking around. He didn't know where it was. And he looks up at me and he just stops. And just one tear. And he went through chemo.
Hey guys, welcome to the Troy Gramling podcast. I am so glad you decided to join us today. You know, we love to talk to interesting people that can help all of us reach our potential and become exactly what God created us to be. Today we're going to talk to a very successful YouTuber. And Franklin Seeber, it is good to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Tell us your channel. We'll just start there. Tell us what your channel is and what it's about.
So my channel is Raw Fishing. We make, fun, engaging animal, toy, fun videos for little kids that is a safe environment for them to kind of search through and pick their crop of the videos.
That's awesome. And how long have you been doing that?
So the channel was established in 2014, but now we've been, I guess, full time since like 2017, 2018.
So you coming up on a decade, I guess, of that.
I guess we've been making GoPro edits since like, wow. I couldn't even remember.
That's so now how old were you when you started then?
I guess we started posting them in 2014.
So how old were you then?
I'm doing math now. I guess I was 11. I'm 25 now.
25. So wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And how has your life changed on a personal level from when you started to today? Like behind the camera, what's
everybody goes through their ups and downs, essentially. I've always been kind of Franklin. If you've ever met me, you guys know that, like, oh, no, that's Franklin. High energy, fun. I talk a lot, but it's great for YouTube.
Wow. Now, did we think about, is YouTube something so you started so young. So did you ever have like an aspiration to go into some other type of career, or I'm going to go to college and do this, or because you started so young, you just kind of.
So I have been up and down all around since I was a little kid. Troublemaker at its finest. My dad once sat me down and this is for real. He sat me down and he said, Franklin, you do realize that one day you're going to have to grow up and, have a family and provide. And do you know what you're going to do to put food on the table? And without blinking an eye, I said, yeah, Dad, I'm going to make fishing and hunting videos straight up, just like that. And he sat back and said, okay. And now 15 years later, I'm doing it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's satisfied.
No. Yeah, but yes, we're hungry. We're hungry. Yeah.
But that satisfies your dad, that answer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. He saw the vision from day one when I was outside chasing lizards, catching them and putting them in my room and letting them loose. And I don't know where those things ended up, but they were my pets.
Now, how long were you posting and doing that before you saw it as, I guess you saw it from a career in your head from the beginning, like you shared with your dad, but when did it this couldn't really happen?
So I was in high school, and I was on the football team, and I, had some valuable information from my buddy Catch 'em All Fishing. And, I saw them making some real money, and I would volunteer my time and help them make their YouTube videos. And I'd always give them my advice on, what I think they should do. And they would give me the response of, you don't know what you're talking about. So being in the industry for so long that I was kind of just like, Dad, I want to quit football. I want to do YouTube. This is my thing. I'm good at it. I can talk to a wall. I can watch paint dry as long as there's a mic on. And it's just something I love to do. So right from there, me and Miss Lopez, as one of my teachers in high school, I made my first check for $300, by the way. And the moment that money hit the account, I was like losing it. So I was rich by the way. And from that point on, it's grown into an actual company, and it's crazy.
Now, did you start with the idea of doing it for your audience, the younger kids, or did you start just with the animal aspect? How did that?
So my story, that's a fun one. My story started with like hardcore fishing videos. I was doing a little bit of commercial fishing, a little bit of like, all of that. And I realized that I don't really like killing animals. I don't really like it. And, people got to eat. You got to understand that commercial fishing is the way you eat when you go to a restaurant. And, we did a little bit of that, dabbled in it. And, I was there more as volunteering just so I could video it. And then slowly but surely, I was reading the comments and they were like, hey, that fish you caught, why don't you keep it as a pet? And then I was like, yo, you're onto something. And then I got a tank and I got another tank. And that's where the videos really got, I guess the word's cumulative, I believe. And, we're able to grow with the animals, with the stories. Everyone remembers when I caught my first fish on a push button and put it in my pond. And then, from there on, the fish doesn't stay this big. It starts to grow, and people grow with that story.
Well, that's interesting.
That
when they, I don't say buy in, but once they engage with their heart, I guess, in a sense of how's the story gonna.
100%. And I don't really want to bring up anything that's too bad, but I have real fans that are like diehards. And probably, I think it was 2018, 2019. I actually had people break into my backyard. And when we first started, it was just plastic pools, and just like you get from Walmart. Right. And, I had this is great. Hold on. I had my animals in this plastic pool, and I essentially had someone, break in and slice the pond, and I was a wreck. But with controversy brought impressions, and I didn't realize that, so many people cared about my animals. So many people cared about me in the sense of my well-being, and getting emotional on camera isn't something I really like doing, but I was vulnerable. And when I put myself out there, the audience, they hit back. And originally when I posted the video, I was asking people to view the video. I was asking people to raise the analytics. I was like, guys, watch the video so we can find out who did this. And then the internet blew up. I mean, it was overnight, the video got 2-3 million views. Wow. And I had no idea. And I was like, what's happening? What's going on here? And we found the people that did it. My mom wouldn't let me press charges. And she was just like, listen, leave the kid alone. You're good.
Right.
You're good. And, we at first I wasn't good, but then looking back, I'm happy that, it was an 18-year-old kid and he moved on. And that's what's more important. And it's not worth ruining someone's life.
Now, did they find you from YouTube, or did it was more of a neighborhood kind of, they knew you had the animals? Or
yeah. So when I buy an animal, I usually buy probably the most expensive animal that I could find, because it'll get the most clicks, and it's, kind of like a good investment in the content, but more than that, it's I love my animals, and I think that, when I get a water monitor, or if I get a Japanese koi fish, that especially when they'll come up to you and kiss your fingers like a
I've got some koi fish, but I haven't convinced them yet to kiss my fingers.
Well, there you go. You gotta start watching the videos.
I guess so.
You can learn how to teach them. But when you do that, you fall in love with them, and then you just start researching biology to make sure that they're happy and healthy. And now I can tell you about nitrates and ammonia and
I can't
bacteria.
I missed that. I didn't know about that when I first got the fish.
So you start growing with the channel, and everybody thought I was a knucklehead at first, but I was uneducated. I was ignorant. I didn't know.
Right.
And then slowly but surely, as the years moved on, I was like, hey, I understand this. I understand that there's an ammonia spike here, and I understand that, we got to get a big beneficial bacteria colony to, filter the water and make everything perfect.
Right. Yes. That, because I'm not an anti-animal person, but I'm not my brother's a hunter and fisherman and all that, because I grew up in Arkansas, but we rent this house and they had a koi pond there. And every day I'd go out there and I'd feed them. And then I had it's an older pump system. It's like a little stream. So I had to clean it and do all this kind of stuff. And I didn't know any of that. And the water ran out. So I filled it up with just from the house. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it killed them. Yeah, it killed them. And I didn't know why. Yeah. I remember when they started not floating right, and I'm out there with the net trying to stop, because I figured if I stirred the water, whatever was wrong would help them. But I had to make and these were big fish. Yeah. And my wife had to go, I couldn't go out there and take them out of that pond. Yeah. And Stephanie had to go out there and get the fish, which surprised, because like I said, I'm not an animal person, but it's amazing. Anytime I guess you care for something, you actually start, even if you don't intentionally begin, you start to care for them. And, so anyways, that was a first for me with the koi fish.
I get it. And that's why I don't think people fully give animal keepers the benefit of the doubt. When you have more than one animal, it's a lot, and it's, you got to make sure that the water parameters are okay, aka its environment that it lives in. You got to make sure it has a good diet. And then if you post it on social media, you got to make sure that you're doing it up not to normal standards, to their standards. And that could be a lot. And it's hard to do that for 100 animals.
Oh, imagine. Now, when you had this experience and realized that, you don't just have folks that are watching or being entertained. You have, folks who would consider themselves friends in the sense that they care for you. Yeah. Did that bring a new responsibility that you felt when you made your videos, knowing that they cared that deeply?
So remember, I was still somewhat I guess the word's ignorant towards the topic. I really didn't know that much about animal keeping, in that sense. And it wasn't until probably COVID, a couple years back, that someone donated their time, shout out to my buddy Chris, but he took his time and he sat down and he said, Franklin, there's do's and there's don'ts to this hobby. There's no rule book, by the way. There's not one rule book online on how to keep an animal alive. And you would think that you can take a fish and put it in your pond after someone gives it to you, correct?
Yeah.
No. You got to quarantine it. You got to make sure that it's eating right. You got to make sure that it doesn't have single-celled organisms, it doesn't have fluke worms, or it doesn't have KHV. There's hidden stuff it's so beyond this podcast that and I didn't know any of that, long story short. And it was more or less setting guidelines and then learning how to treat the animals, kind of becoming a fish vet, that it really started to change.
And you had to learn all that in front of everybody.
Yeah. And I was just getting essentially just a online punching bag for a couple years. But, after that, I get nothing but love now. My water parameters are impeccable, and once you really take the time to know me, and I took 2 years off YouTube to learn biology. I built self-sustaining ecosystems because I knew that, the videos can wait. We're in a pandemic, everything's going wrong. So might as well take a little time for myself and learn. And that's what I did. I sat there, I learned, I absorbed, I was a sponge. For everything I did good, I did bad, but then eventually the good was more than the bad. And we created some really amazing things. And I became a contractor for a couple months. And the people at Lowe's were like, hey, no, this guy builds koi ponds for a living. I was like, no, I make YouTube videos, but that's a cool second.
Now, Have you had any of the folks who hit you so hard in the beginning actually come back and pat you on the back or apologize or any of those kind of things?
So you got to remember that we're growing with a generation. So the people that were first interested in fish are probably now interested in like rap music or something. Right. You know, they're 15 years old, 16 years old, 17, 18, whatever. And my videos now, the demographic that I kind of target is definitely a younger demographic, but it's a family's demographic. It's more for, you know, the bigger picture. It's a safe place that people can go to, and you're not going to get any swearing. You're not going to get any of the junk that's on the internet. And it's a safe place that essentially I can babysit their kids for, you know, a couple hours while they may be cooking dinner or something. And they don't have to worry, oh, is that raw?
Right.
Raw's on? Okay, yeah, you're good. Keep it moving and keep it watching. Actually, if you look at our audience, it's between like 30 and 55. And that's so confusing because it's little kids, but it's the parents' account, and they just let the kids watch.
Right. Now, do you feel, especially you're young today, but starting so young and everything, and then do you feel a responsibility to the kids? I mean, in other words, that's a lot of, they're looking at you, they're at a learning stage that, you know, they're sponges themselves kind of at that age. Now, they're not your responsibility, of course, they're the parents' responsibility, but do you carry, and I'm not saying that you should, but do you carry some of that, or do you mainly see yourself as an entertainer?
That's an interesting question because, you know, I will never, ever, and for the rest of my life, blow someone off, you know, unless I'm driving. Like, I can't like stop in the middle of traffic. But I mean, you see me at Publix, Walmart, my day to day, like you have a little kid walk up to me and you catch that from the outside, you can tell I full blown turn into raw fam. And I'm giving that kid his one-on-one, just like I would have whenever I was a little kid looking up to Steve Irwin. I would have given my left finger to have met him and been able to just have 5 minutes of his time.
Yeah. Well, that's rare nowadays. Cause you get, I'm always amazed with folks who do what you do, just the emotional weight of having to continue. Everybody has to produce, there's no doubt, but you're producing on camera in front of everybody, which is of course going to get evaluated. You know, if I'm out here doing something else, I don't have thousands, millions, you know, whatever number you want to use of people, like you said, evaluating the water on my fish pond. You know what I mean? How do you emotionally, or has that been a challenge at all for you?
That was a long question.
Yeah, well, it's a long question.
I would just say that, like, long story short, I have an army of impressions at my disposal, and YouTube will limit my reach at any given moment if I get out of line. But on that note, you know, people learn their place, and an algorithm or, you know, a business understands its do's and don'ts. And its do's are keep posting and be a good person. Its don'ts is go off the rails and start posting stuff you shouldn't. And, you know, people think that, oh, I have all these followers, now I can just like stop what I'm doing and, you know, start posting videos, you know, of what I want to work, you know, what I want to post. And that's not really the demographic that you built. You know, the audience that you built is the audience that's going to watch your videos. And, you know, what I do off camera is what I do off camera, but I'm still a good person. And, you know, it just so happens that that's how it translates. I can't speak for others, but, you know, I've been coming to this church since I was 4 years old, 3-4 years old. So it, you know, I just so happen to be, in my opinion, a little bit of a rare case. But I just try and be a good person. That's
Do the comments bother you?
I don't read the comments. I don't read the comments.
Okay.
There's not one comment I read. I've had so many death threats I couldn't even think. I couldn't even tell you the number. I've had so many out of line comments to where I had to go to my entire comment section and it's not fair to me and
Right.
my family to go through that. And people are sometimes just joking, and it is until you kind of like comment back, and then they're like, whoa, I didn't know you were gonna,
Right.
I didn't know you're gonna comment. I love you. I love Pastor Troy. I love everything you stand for. I was just joking. I say, gotcha. And it is what it is. It's a tough crowd, but it's a good crowd. It's my crowd, and I'll stick with it. And I'll fight for my subscribers. You ain't gonna come over here and bully one of my fans. No,
Right.
I'll stand up in the comment section for sure.
What about your family? How do they read the comment? Do they have,
No, they got their own company. Shout out Frank Seeber Roofing. They do their own thing. And they're
Come on now. I know your mom has got it. I mean, you're her son.
Oh, no. Bragging. Oh, my mom's a bragger. She absolutely loves what she does. And, in that sense, yeah, no, I'm the youngest child of 4 siblings. They're all girls. So I'm the baby of the family. Just know that I got my,
So are you saying you're spoiled?
Oh yeah. Spoiled rotten. My mom loves me. I just say this, at Thanksgiving, she makes me my own dessert. Okay.
Well, what is it?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you, but, it starts with a B and ends with pudding. It's amazing.
What are some of the greatest joys you get from being in this business?
You're trying to make me cry. Really? For real? I'll tell you a story. If I start crying, we're stopping it. I was at a fishing tournament. I do a Make-A-Wish fishing tournament every year with my family. And we donate a wish to a kid to, let them go do their thing, which they've reached out to me a couple times, and we might potentially move on one of those options that come up in the future, for me to be their wish. But the kid, he was at the dock fishing, and I walked up. He didn't know it was my boat. We had just caught a bunch of like mahi, and we filleted them up and did all that, and all the tarpon are right underneath the dock. And the kid heard my voice and started looking around. He didn't know where it was, and he looks up at me and he just stops and just one tear. And he went through chemo.
It's all right,
I told you.
That's all right, man. I think it's very inspiring to know you carry that weight. You know what I mean? And are willing to leverage the gifts you have to help somebody like that.
But yeah, long story short, he said the only reason why I got through this was because your videos.
Wow.
That hurt.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I stopped everything I was doing. I'm getting every piece of merch. I'm throwing it at him. But
that's amazing.
Just realized that we get sometimes 250 million views a month.
Wow.
We got every country, their impressions, and it's not always easy, but we get by.
Yeah.
We're blessed.
That's amazing. I know they were telling me that when we were in Peru, in Lima, that our campus pastor's son there is a big fan of yours.
Yeah, they FaceTime me.
Yeah, that's what they were telling me.
Yeah, they FaceTime me. I think it was out of like the clear blue or something, and I'm sitting there getting ready, and I get a phone call, and I'm like, okay, dun, 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 and I'm like, hello, and she's like, hi, I used to be your youth pastor or your youth,
leader.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, you look the same but so different. How are you? And she's like, well, I got something for you, and I gave the moment for him, and it was awesome. Yeah, and I'm never gonna like not answer the phone, if that makes sense. And I feel like that's probably why I haven't changed my phone number yet. It's because a lot of the times the little kids will call my number and I'll answer the phone. Hello? Who is this? And give them the 10, 15 minutes, and they lose their mind. Mom, little bro's on the phone. Little bro. So it's a good one.
Oh, that's rewarding.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges of being in that field?
running a business. You know, it's a YouTube, you know, channel, but there's a corporation behind it. There's employees behind it, you know, the same way that you'd say, you know, it's a church, but then there's employees. It's bigger than what it was originally. You know, there's people that I have to provide for and put food on their table as well. And so I take it serious. You know, some days we're filming, you know, 5, 6, 7 days a week, you know, outsourcing, editing, thumbnails. I mean, the whole nine, starting multiple YouTube channels. I mean, it's bigger than me at the end of the day, because if I outgrow the impressions, I'm going to have to eventually take on a younger me to continue, you know, the acting. And that's something that I've never really talked about, but like, yeah, I mean, the demographic, right. And you want a place that is kid safe, that kids can go to and relate to, and you know.
I would think the hard part in that demographic is it comes and goes. I mean, they're that age and then they're no longer that age.
Yeah, well, that's why we're always tapping into the most relevant ideas. We're always, you know, linking those shorts back to the long formats and tapping in, getting 10, 15, 20 million views on a short, and then, you know, pushing that back to a long format where we're monetizing. You know, there's so many different, you know, tips and tricks that we have.
Have you thought about, because like in ministry, you know, you have the children's ministry and you're ministering to the kids and the families that age, but you're also then wanting to partnering with them as they become students. Mm-hmm. Since you're starting with such a young demographic, have you thought about having other channels that hit those other demographics, or would that make you too broad? Or do you think they can?
I don't think the word is broad. I think it's spreading yourself thin.
Okay.
There's only so many hours in a day. And I feel like financially in South Florida, we all understand where I'm coming from. It is right now one of the highest real estate, you know, markets.
Right.
And, you know, people don't understand that, like, someone that may live in Kentucky or Northern Florida, let's just say Northern Florida, has it a lot easier than someone that lives in South Florida. You know, I just bought an acre of land and there goes my life savings. There's not even a house on it.
Yes. No, it's crazy. We're in Fort Lauderdale and Miami are both in the top 5.
Yeah.
And it is crazy. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
It's been great to talk with you. Let me ask you one last question. You know, there are lots of folks that have yet maybe to discover what they're passionate about, what they're going to give their life to. I mean, what advice would you give them? I mean, you're doing something that you enjoy, you're successful at it. If they're still looking, you know, trying to figure it out, maybe they've tried this or that, what would you say to them?
I was watching a video from Steve Harvey earlier this week, and pretty much hit the nail right on the head. And whatever gift God gives you, do that. And, you know, when you have a gift, that is what you're always going to be the best at. And then once you know, polish your skills off at that, and just so happens that, you know, interacting, talking, you know, is my gift. And then now I'm able to turn on a camera and then, you know, strategize with some of the best people in the business on how to, you know, increase our, you know, average view durations and our click-through rates and SEO on the titles. And it is so much more of a business than anyone would ever be able to comprehend that isn't a YouTuber. Mm-hmm. And if you are a YouTuber, you know that it's a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week job. And if you're not first, you're last. You know, and essentially people don't realize that, you know, we're competing with Mr. Beast at the end of the day, and that guy has 200 million subscribers. And if we post on the same day he does, we're definitely not hitting the trending page, you know, because he's going to pull all the impressions. So it's something to definitely, you know, look into. But at the end of the day, a great video always goes viral. And that's what you got to remember.
Well, thank you so much. Because I mean, I think about that and I think the energy that got you in trouble when you were
Yeah.
younger is in some sense, the gift you've got
Yeah.
that's allowed you to succeed in this area.
Exactly, 100%. Just being a dog, just fighting through it.
Going after it.
It's when God hits you with a little bit of controversy, you stand up, put your britches on, and you go to work, and you start throwing stuff at a wall and hoping it stings.
Yeah, keep going. Hey, we want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Franklin, for being here and just sharing with us your heart, being vulnerable with us. And I just want to encourage you, no matter who you are, where you're at, you have a gift. The Bible says that. He knit you together. He created you on purpose to do something of significance. We love you guys, and we'll see you next Thursday right here on the podcast. God bless.